You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it back there. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Low Gravity Podcast. If you guys did enjoy the last podcast, if you did, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. Obviously, this isn't the normal setting. We have four of the local area podcast hosts who've previously been on the podcast. Obviously, you've seen them in the past. We have Billy G, Shawn, and Amanda. How are we doing, peoples?
We're good, brother. I appreciate being back.
Oh, thank you guys for coming on. This is something that we're missing two people. This is something we wanted to work on for a while. I wonder if that got caught on camera. You just missed. You just. Sorry. But this is something we've wanted to do for a while. We're missing two people, which is all right. But obviously, for the new viewers, who are you guys?
Yeah. Want me to lead off?
Yeah.
So, the dog on me, but, you know. What's going on, guys? I'm Billy Janeludis from Billy G Life Coaching. I'm a life coach and professional speaker. I run once a week with Billy G every single Sunday for, honestly, next Sunday will be 9 straight years of once a week.
Whoa.
Never taking a week off. So, after this, guys, go check out Once a Week with Billy G on YouTube, and I'll be right there for you. But passing on to Shawn right now.
Guys, thank you, Billy. Last time I was on, I was doing health and fitness coaching, right? And so now, Shawn Rivers here, playing the game of life. And that's it. That's all there is to it.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
That's it.
I'm Amanda, podcast host Amanda's Mindset. Also started a new podcast recently, Breathwork Magic. I'm a breathwork facilitator. I was kind of all over the place last time I was on here. Well, a little more grounded, but yeah.
With the knee brace
on.
on. Grounded with the knee brace. Well, so let's talk about us. So obviously we're all podcast hosts. We all host our individual podcasts on different topics and stuff like that. Obviously those that have watched our podcast understand what we go through and what our podcast is mainly on. For those who don't know what your guys' podcast's on, just give them a little bit in depth of what you guys do.
For sure, yeah. I'll start the process again, start the train. Yeah, so guys, like I said, once a week with Billy G, with my background being a life coach and professional speaker, my entire goal of everything that I do is to help people in one way or the other. I dive so deep in the mind, and I love teaching people how the mind actually operates, how it works, how we can use it as the tool to help us create in this life, but also live the life that we want to live. In doing so, with every single Sunday as point of message out there, one, it could be teaching you tools that you have at your disposal, at your fingertips already now that you might not be aware of, diving deeper into the conscious mind, the unconscious mind to help you become that better version of yourself. But at the same time, we have special guests on. And with special guests, they run from other coaches, from other speakers, from someone that are creating an impact, whether in their community, in the world, in the country, whatever it is. But together, we try and build a message that's going to help you with what you're going through, whether that's achieving your dream, overcoming something, healing from something, or reaching other people. So there's a lot of different variety of what we bring to the table, but the foundation of every single piece is to help you through your life and to help you excel in your life. But that's what Once a Week Billy G is.
Yeah. If you guys haven't checked out Billy G, like, I just love you, Billy G. You know, that's and like I've been on your podcast. I've known you for a couple of years, and like you're such a unique, creative individual. Like when you think of the word creator, I think Billy G. Right? Just want to preface that. And
I appreciate that.
Let people know. So with my own show, I've been running it for about like 2 or 3 years on and off. I'm taking a brief hiatus right now for the past, honestly, close to like 6 months, which has been nice. Going through a lot of different like life changes and things like that. And so I used to primarily do a lot of interview styles where, similar to Billy, a large array of different guests. And so right now I'm going to start the show back up in February, and it's going to be closer to it's still going to be interview style, but I want it to be more in terms of alignment and like finding your life's purpose and what that actually means. And so every single person has a different life purpose, and we can get deeper into this topic itself, but allowing people to see that you are the purpose and not just what you do. You bring the purpose into everything you do, not what you do is the purpose. And so I want to preface that. And so I'll still be doing interview styles, but again, a lot of different people, what they do, how they think, anywhere from the spirituality side to the coaching side to the mind to a lot of different things. I've had bartenders on, I've had Billy G on, I've had Amanda on. Like, the show is for the people, and just like you, Billy, like, this is the service that I'm providing for everyone. It's not that I'm doing it for myself, which I used to, but I'm doing it through myself. So, Amanda?
Nice. So, Amanda's Mindset, I've been doing it a year and a half. Interview style as well. Wide range of guests. Any and everybody who has gone through some type of transformation, shifted in a positive way, and changed their life. Kind of continuing on that route, going on a hiatus next month. Haven't taken a break with the podcast yet, so I'm going to. And launched a new one a couple months back, a breathwork one, because my intention with Mando's Mindset wasn't to talk about breathwork. But any person I meet assumes my podcast is a breathwork podcast. And the breathwork podcast has surprisingly been better for me and easier for me. And something I even want to do more so. You know, like, because I have such a high, strong desire to talk about that. You know, some of these, I've enjoyed the conversations on Mando's Mindset, but some of them, it's, okay, she's a yoga instructor, or it's some guy who wrote a book in United Kingdom, like, all these different random things. Whereas the breathwork one, it's been more something I'm really into, so I've been able to really niche it down, and that's been great. But yeah, we're taking a break from both of them next month, heading back to Bali, and yeah.
That's awesome. We know how that story went. If you don't know, I warn you. Go check it out.
Anytime you speak of Amanda, we warn you first. Right?
That's hilarious.
That one was a trip. I could picture everything, but not picture everything all at the same time. All I remember is the big going to police station and thought you were gonna. Oh man, what a fucking story that was. But let's jump on that topic, Shawn. I wanna dive more into why you shifted that way, and then I think that's also a great thing to talk about through all four of us, because it's not like a super like broad topic, but it's a topic that everybody needs to really like understand, I feel like.
Well, what is going to help people the most, right? I think a lot of people are looking for purpose in their life. Like, okay, I'm a coach and like that's my purpose, but I don't think so. I don't think what you do is the purpose. I think it's the purpose is you. If you want joy, fulfillment, happiness, it's not what you do. It's bringing joy, fulfillment, happiness to everything you do. And so that's all I'm doing. And so when I think of purpose now, like I thought, oh, I'm going to help people improve their body. And that's what I'm going to do. Like that's the thing that will give me purpose. But no, that will give me joy and fulfillment. No, it's the game of life. So many people are struggling with it, right? Throughout our own life's challenges, right? I heard today we were coming up with the distinction between pain and suffering. Pain is always going to happen, all right, throughout every single one of our lives. Suffering is because we say it shouldn't be happening this way. And that's just the distinction. And so getting people out of the suffering of life and saying it's not supposed to be this way, right? When I look at my life now, it's less about I don't have a vision. I don't have goals. Because when I look at life now, if I bring purpose All right. If I bring joy and fulfillment to everything I do, I have no idea where I'm going to land. And so now I don't have like that, oh, you need to, I thought it was visualize. I want this type of life. I want this. I want it to look exactly this way. And who's to say it should or shouldn't look this way? So that's more of like the realm that I'm bringing things into. And so I think even me and Billy, we may disagree on parts of that, which is why I've been interested to start the conversation around this and how we're all living life. Because it's not just like what we do, but it's also who we're being.
No, I love that, and I wouldn't disagree with anything that you said. I actually emphasize a lot what you said because I do not believe that your purpose is what you do. I think what you do is your modality to get you to your purpose, and your purpose is exactly what you said: living a life of joy, fulfillment, prosperity, abundance, whatever, love, whatever term someone wants to put on it right now. It's that higher level energy, that higher level emotion, and this is going to connect to the breath work actually. And the aspect of everything Shawn just said, for people listening right now, if you're trying to comprehend all this stuff, if you're someone in the shoes right now trying to find your purpose, trying to find what you want to do, I've always looked at where your purpose has always been looking you in the face. And sometimes we're so blind to what's right in front of us. In the sense of we're all trying to do exactly what Shawn just perfectly described. We're all trying to find something to fill a void that we are doing something in life. We're moving forward on some tangible aspect, whether it's a coach, whether it's a speaker, whether it's a podcast host, whatever it is under the sun. You're trying to find a job because we were raised to find a job. We were raised to fill that aspect of our life. In reality, whatever that job, what you do, coaching, podcasting, speaking, whatever it is on the sun, maybe you're an author, maybe you're an artist, if that brings joy to you, if that brings your creativity alive in you, if it brings a higher level energy, it allows you to elevate to a higher version of yourself, essentially speaking, that is guiding you to your purpose. That is in essence your purpose. In reality, your purpose is to become a greater version of yourself. Whether you look at that in an emotional standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, or you look at that as in a body standpoint, because I sit there and look at all the phases of life. Because Shawn and I, we met in the gym. So we met in an aspect where we are trying to better ourselves, better our body. But your body's only one aspect of who you are. It's your health, your fitness, everything. But you have these people that dedicate so much of their lives to bodybuilding, to shaping their body, to sometimes going overboard to where they might think that they never look good in front of the mirror. But if what you're doing is impacting you in a negative way because you can't look at yourself in the mirror, is that your purpose? Or is it a modality to get you to your purpose? And every single experience, every single situation that you have in your life is bringing you to this greater understanding, this deeper knowing of who you actually are. And that's your purpose, because you're elevating to a higher version of yourself in whatever modality, whatever vehicle you choose to get there. That could be, like I said, artist, service, whatever is on the sun, but that could also be your experiences. Because our pains, our loves, our traumas, our past, if we look at that through a greater perspective in the sense that this is helping me, this happened for me and not to me, that's a quote that always gets passed around. If you can look at it from a greater perspective and see that with new eyes, you realize, oh my goodness, this taught me this lesson. This taught me this lesson. That I went through that because it brought me here. If you start to retrace the steps of your life back to those moments, you start to realize, wow, this is pointing me in a direction. And the direction is a better version of you. That, to me, is what our purpose is. So I agree with you tenfold with everything that you said.
I didn't know if we were going to have like some different... I didn't necessarily think that you were... Only what you do is your purpose. That's not what I was trying to say. That I wasn't sure where your standpoint was and my standpoint was. So I see how we're co-regulating in that aspect. Yeah. And when you start to talk about like your purpose is becoming that best version of yourself, I think something that I want to preface too is, and you talked about like not chasing that joy, because that's not what you would, the way you framed it, living from that joy. But I think where people are starting to go wrong, including myself, is chasing after the joy. The joy is simply a byproduct of something you're experiencing, because if you only chase the joy, Amanda and I were just talking about this. Where I was even just weeks ago was I thought I'm only going to do things that make me feel good, right? And I think that is the wrong way of thinking. Because if I only do things that make me feel good, heroin would go and make me feel good. I will just go and do that. For Amanda, having a child would not be something that is an enjoyable experience to go and make her feel good. Afterwards it would, but during that process it would not, right? So like, I think that we oftentimes as well become very attached to chasing the joy as opposed to saying, you know what, these are the things that make me feel fulfilled and joyful, and I'm going to want to continue to play that game. I think a good way that I can start to describe this as well, think of a sports game, right? It's not just about scoring the goal. You want to enjoy all of the experiences of the game. You want to go and play the whole game. Sometimes you're going to go and kick a goal. Sometimes you're going to fall down. Sometimes the defender is going to hit you. You're playing the game because you enjoy the game. You're not going because of the outcome that happens.
Depending on the scenario. Depending on
I
the
don't
scenario.
think so. Let's expand.
See, so like in my case, obviously I play sports and I play soccer. So it depends on the scenario. So I would say like during like a regular season, you wanna score the goals. You wanna rank up to go to the higher, and because you don't want to waste necessarily, like if you're in like that competitive aspect, like how I would have been, you didn't go to waste your time. You went to realistically be the best. And that's how it was. Every team that went in always tried to be better than the team that they were playing. Obviously, if they lost, you saw yourself either rank down, or if other teams lose, you see yourself rank up. So it flows differently. And then obviously when you're on the field, like you said, you want to experience the whole game. You want to experience, depending on what position you play, how the opposing team attacks towards you. Or obviously, if you score a goal, it's one of like the biggest highlights of the game, and obviously winning is an even bigger prize, because obviously nobody wants to lose in a competitive aspect like sports. And then I feel like personally that winning in sports and being at the top of the top is realistically where you want to be, because I feel like if you're down at the bottom, you're kind of just like down on yourself. Like being at the top of the top, being the best in the league, shows that all the effort you've put in has succeeded. And I feel like the lower you go, and being at the lowest of the low, shows that everything you've done kind of just like went to shit, in a sense, if that makes sense.
I guess you go.
So what I heard first was you had said, I'm playing the game to be my best. And then you went to say, I'm playing the game because I want to beat the best of everyone else. So which is it? Are you trying to be your best and give your full effort to be your best, or are you trying to be everyone else's best?
So I would say in the form of sports, it's both. So me, I'm trying to be the best for my individual point on the team. Because if I'm not my personal best on the team, I'm a weak link in the team's perspective. Because it's like, if you have that one weak link, they realistically won't be able to hold the standard that somebody else might be at. So me personally, I need to be the best I can be, so I'm not a weak link on the field. But then as a team, we need to be the best to beat the others, because if we don't work together as a team, we won't go any further.
So your goal is based on the outcome.
Correct.
So the only thing that's going to make you fulfilled is not actually playing the game, is what you're telling me. It's only to beat the other team.
In a sense, yeah. Because it's like, I feel like if I'm playing, I wear it on my shoulders, the game on my shoulders 100% of the time, all the time. No matter if it's recreational, competitive, no matter what it is, I'm always wearing the game on my shoulders. Mm-hmm. And I take every incident, every mistake, everything that happens to the chest. This is a game I've been playing. If we're talking about soccer, it's a game I've been playing since I was 4. Mm-hmm. So everything that happens within this game, I wear and I take right to the chest all the time, and I carry it on my shoulders all the time. So no matter what it is, if it's a win or if it's a loss, yeah, I'll take that, and then I'll look at like what could I have done better? What could I have done to help the team? And then I'll go back as what on the field was slower, what on the field wasn't working in correlation with everybody else to see the bigger outcome, to see the win, to see the goals, to see everybody working together as a team. That's how on the field, like, my mindset works, if that makes sense.
If you're only there, I understand that you want to win the game, right? But when I hear this, now I start to think, why are we sitting here doing a podcast, and why are you not practicing right now?
You're totally right. You are right.
So I don't think that it's actually, when you're in the moment, it is about that effort, and it is, you want to win, and it's a normal competitive spirit. Yet, how should I word this? I don't think that that is actually everything for you.
So it was.
Okay.
After high school, it started dwindling down. Became more of an adult, but like all through that, that's what it was. It was life, school, soccer. That was it. Like from 4 to, I would say, so I was about 15. So about from 4 to the age of 15, when I blew out my knee, it was soccer, soccer, soccer. That was my life. It was every single day, all the time, waking up early in the morning to go to games, shooting across the state to play another game for another team, traveling, playing for teams. It was all the time. So I was playing consistently all the time. Now, like you had said, why, if that was my life, why am I here when I should be practicing? Because it was.
Okay.
Past tense. So that I probably should have prefaced that that it was before I realistically became an adult. Now I still now I'll play. I'll still wear it on my shoulders, but then it's just on the field. I don't let it go into my personal life. When it's there, it's strictly on the field, and it's played and placed on the field at all times.
I think I see our disconnect. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but I think when you're only focused on the outcome, it's important to have the outcome, right? And desire the outcome, but I think that's a part of our ego and wanting and chasing something outside of yourself, as opposed to you're only doing it for the experience of playing that game.
You're not wrong.
That's where I'm getting to.
Yeah, that I can see now. Yeah.
Let me interject with this in the sense where, because you're both 100% correct.
We're both right. Yeah, we're both.
You're both
right.
100% correct with it, and because when you talked about when you were on the field, I want to pass off to Amanda to get her 2 cents on this thing, but when you were talking about you're on the field and your mindset was to do the best at your position so you could impact the team so the team can win. So your purpose in that moment is to be the best version of you, to learn this position so well so it betters everyone else. And then when Shawn asked you, well, why aren't you on the field now? Why are we doing this podcast when that was your purpose? But if you said, and you said, you again answered with, well, I became an adult. I had to kind of really, make the decisions, everything like that. You took your purpose, which was to better those around you with your drive, with your competitiveness on the field. And you sit, and this is what people do in their life, which is the best thing you could ever do, is you take that and you shift it just a little bit to then expand it. And what you did is you took your competitiveness from on the field, from bettering those around you, to a podcast, right? So you took your want, your driving force, which is your purpose, which is your higher self calling you to better those around you, and you shifted it to a podcast where you can speak and have guests on to speak, share their moments, share what their drive is to help other people. So you're expanding it, which means now you're taking your passion, your purpose, and you're expanding it to help more people. So your purpose has always been to expand other people even more so, which is a service, which at the end of the day, I think is everyone's service, because we're meant to help others. We're meant to show that love in some form or another. That's what you do. But we all need an anchor in our life that allows us to pursue our purpose. Yours was soccer. Now it's shifted into podcast, going to be house, everything like this. Like, you had the goals in our life are anchors to help us continue to get a little bit closer to our purpose, that elevated version of ourselves. Which brings me to Amanda with the breathing aspect. When you were describing your podcast, you were explaining how you have found something where this is so free. This is me now. It's the Manders one. You allowed yourself to have guests on that really allowed them to expand their story. It gave you a really understanding of how you run a podcast, but it gave you an understanding of how you run you. And when you came across the breathing aspect, you're like, oh my goodness, this is me, and it's free. So the breathing aspect is your anchor to be more of your higher self. And I want to pass it off to you right now in the aspect of purpose, because I know we were just kind of talking about a couple different topics, but what's your take on that, where you have an anchor that allows you to get closer to who you want to be, or meant to be for that matter?
That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, you said for him, like, his anchor has changed, kind of.
Yep. Think of it, your anchor is your modality. It's your vehicle to allow you to get a little bit higher up the ladder. And his was soccer in a high school, and as you said, from 4 years old on. So from different ages, you think all of us, I'm assuming all of us played some aspect of a sport or competitiveness or some regards, because we're always put into it in school, or maybe it was a subject in class, whatever it is. We all have that one thing that we enjoy doing when we're younger. So that's a modality to grow certain talents and skills and versions of ourselves to elevate. And then they change. And then they change, and then they change, and then they change. But everything there's always a guiding light guiding you there, which for him was that there's a part of him that's trying to impact others. So the guiding light from day one has always been to impact others, from a team standpoint, to a solo standpoint, to now a community standpoint if you become an officer. Same with Shawn. I think Shawn's story is absolutely incredible. And I know, I think when I met you, you were doing the personal training, and then you shifted from personal training, and you were kind of trying to find yourself, and you found coaching, and then you found the health and fitness, and then now you're trying to find another level of yourself. So the beauty of that to me, and this goes for anyone listening right now, if you're in those shoes where you're trying to find what you love, is that when you can try new things, you find what you love. And Shawn, I think you have a love for trying new things because it brings you new experiences of life. That's a purpose. That's a passion. So those, in essence, are an anchor. For you, before we even started recording, or maybe we were, because you told us we were recording like a half hour before we started recording, but you even mentioned when you went, you tried to experience more. You mentioned the Bali trip. You mentioned going to these different podcast conferences to learn, yes, to have an experience, but to learn. And when we learn something new, it brings us to another version of ourselves. And it led you to realizing that this breathing aspect is like, oh my goodness, this is me. So it's an anchor. It's a modality. It's a vehicle to get you to the next version of you. Do you connect with that?
Very much so, because it's ironic you say that. Like, even, I didn't mention this conference, but I went to some conference called Newtopia this past year as well. I found out about it super last minute, and I booked the ticket. I was supposed to be going somewhere else, changed the whole plan, and I loved it because everybody knew of breathwork. And, like, nice. The podcasting conferences were great, but I met, like, 3 people who knew of breathwork, and I talk to them still very regularly.
Nice.
Because, like, it clicked, you know, but it was so resonating for me because they were like, you do breathwork? And I'm like, you know what breathwork is? And then so many of these people are like, that's how I cured my rage. That's how I cured this. And I'm just like,
yeah,
these are my people.
It's your passion.
Yeah.
Right? And that's our passion and our purpose go hand in hand with each other. And your passions can change. Like you mentioned the example earlier, Shawn, and you mentioned in a joking manner of a family, having a kid, which I completely get that aspect, but you even expand that more. When a family has a kid or 2 people have a kid, it makes you change, but it makes you, and if people accept it, and sadly there are people that don't accept that, but if you accept that role, you become a better version, because now you're learning different version of yourself you didn't know were there. It's like, you know, my symbol for my business is the diamond, because we're all diamonds, but some of us don't realize that. So think of all the experiences you go through in your life as shaving off some of the dirt from that diamond to make you shine even more. And then when you find that passion, or you find a piece of that purpose that's guiding you to something higher, you found that light. You follow that light a little bit more, now you're shining brighter. Now your energy, if we want to go back to a soul system, but your energy is now radiating higher, your frequency is higher, so now you're connecting more with who you are, but you're connecting more with doors opening and opportunities to actually guide you to your passion, your purpose, and where you're meant to be in life. There's always a guiding light, but we create that light for that matter.
here's what I'd love to hear about. When you, during your introduction, had talked about the healing, right? And right now, what I'm finding is a lot of people that are on their healing journey, right? We look at the diamond, right? When we think of traumatic experience, we're all that diamond, right? And then the traumatic experience comes on, and it's all that dirt that's around it. And then, just like you said, like doing that inner work, in a sense, is shaving like parts of that diamond so that it can see brighter. Then, Amanda, when you had talked about, I cured my rage, right? We're curing something, as if there's something wrong with us. Not saying that's what you meant, just
That
taking
was what was
the
said to me.
Yeah. That's what. And so, what are you guys' thoughts on the healing journey, right? Because that's what I thought I was on for a long time, and I'm learning more now from my perspective that we're not here to be on a healing journey. We can get sucked into that personal development world where we're constantly trying to work on ourselves and better ourselves and do this and the next modality, and it's breathwork, now it's meditation, now I'm going to this retreat, and all these different things. And someone had framed it this way for me, and let's unpack this a little bit. Your healing journey is like you going and buying a car, and the only thing that you do is you go and stop at the gas station, and then you go and you change the oil. That's all the little tweaks. You're filling up, right? You're doing all the healing things for it. You bought the car to drive the car. So instead of us going and focusing on the healing journey, go and drive the car, and like that's that purpose aspect. So go and drive the car because you want to drive the car, not because you want to go and take it to the gas station and do the healing work and all this. So what are you guys' thoughts on the healing journey and all the traumatic instances and like just that realm as a whole, right?
How deep do you want me to go?
I can let you rip for a little bit and then get everyone's perspective, because I know that each of us have done different modalities in terms of our inner work, personal development, all those different aspects kind of intertwined. And that's where I was starting to feel stuck for a little bit. I was like, no, it's the next mentor that's going to, it's the next course that's going to help, you know.
I get that.
So that's where I was in the past couple of years, where I'm really deteriorating away. I'm like, no, I don't want that anymore. I want to drive the car.
Yeah.
I don't want to go and just do all the pit stops.
For sure. I would say this, with the aspect of, there's a lot of different pieces you mentioned, but with the aspect of the next mentor is going to be the one, the next coach is going to be the one. I think, I'm a coach. I think coaches and mentors, whoever it is that is helping you and whatever you're going through, they're meant to be a guide for you, but they're not doing the work for you. At some point, you have to come to a realization with yourself that you are the one on the journey. That person's part of your journey to help you and nudge you and teach you and guide you in skills. But until you accept the fact that, say, what happened to you happened, and then you accept the fact that this is me, I healed from this, or I'm going through this and I am healing in this, until you accept the fact that you've done the work, when does the period get put that the healing's done? And so connecting to your story, where some people get set on their healing, and it's a phenomenal thing, because there's a major truth to that, where I could even argue that all of life is a never-ending healing journey, because when and I'm going to go deep, because I'm a spiritual person, when your spirit comes into this world, before we come here, and there's scripture that backs this up, there's also other texts that back this up just as much, when your spirit comes into this world, you chose all the events that are going to happen to you. You chose all the lessons that you need to learn going through here. So if your spirit, and again, if I'm going deep, stick with me on this. If your spirit chose all the love, all the pain, all the experiences, all the traumas, everything that you had to go through in this moment, when you realize this and dive deep into it, you chose those to help you elevate higher. Because if you could get through this, which you already know you can, if you could get through this, you'll learn this lesson, which elevates you on a higher energetic level. And if we're spirits at our core, you're a spirit first, you're an energy first, then you're a human body. If you realize that mainframe, your energy heals, healing journey. Your spirit can then elevate to another level. That's the goal of our lives here. So when you pass on, whether you believe in heaven, the universe, God, whatever you choose to believe in, you elevate to a higher level. And it's like I began to look at moments in my life where I had to go through healing. The healing became very quick because I would sit there and realize, like, okay, I'm going through this for a reason. If I learn the lesson, I pass the test, I level up. So when I start to look at moments in my life where I'm going through pain, or my heart or my family or whatever's been shattered, and I sit there and I can get through it, it's my choice to realize I got through it and let go of the pain. I think a lot of people on their heroin journey choose not to let go of the pain because they've carried it for so long, where they're walking with this, it's become a part of them, and they don't realize they're carrying the baggage because the norm is that they've always had the baggage. But when you let go and you heal it, much like you mentioned the breath work, where people can let go of their anger, or they can heal their anger, they're letting go not of an emotion, because every emotion is beneficial in some regards. But when you carry that with you, and you're not letting it go, all you're doing is bringing it into the next part of your life, when perhaps the purpose of your journey is to realize you never needed to carry it. It was already down. If I could go across 5 different scriptures that tell you, and from different cultures, not just one, that tell you, lay it down. You were never meant to carry it into the next one. And when you start to process that, it's like, what have I been carrying from the first chapter of my life into now the 15th chapter of my life that I was supposed to let go in chapter 2? And yet I'm trying to get to chapter 16. It's getting heavier. It's getting heavier. Oh, wow. Well, chapter 17 is pretty awesome. Why? Because in 16 you let go. And that's the purpose of being able to let go in your life. But that's a healing aspect. That's why I can say the entire process of your life is a healing journey. Just a matter of what perspective you choose to look at it through. But everything happens for a reason in your life, because it's meant to get you, again, coming back to my point of all of this, a higher version of yourself. Because your goal of being here in this life, no matter what your experience is, no matter what your purpose or passion, whatever you choose to be, is to become a greater version of you, so you can impact every single person around you in a greater way. So that's my aspect of that.
Yeah.
I feel like to touch off of it, I feel like a lot of people, they don't understand it in a way, meaning that they think, like, I'll put this in like a guy's perspective. Like, just a guy is like, I have to hold all this load for everybody else. I have to take the burden for my for something going on with my family. I have to be the man of the house. I have to take that in position where I feel like if I'm not taking all the burden and allowing everybody else to relax, who's going to? And then I feel where it's tough, and we can go on to men's mental health and stuff like that, where the guy just gets too bombarded, and then they don't know how to just let go. Like you had mentioned, they've been holding that sack for so long that it's a normal thing, and then it just fills up, and it doesn't stop filling up, and continuously fills up more and more and more, to the point where the sack drops, but so does the person holding it, which is also another tough thing. So it's like I feel that obviously with between like us here, it's with not hearing what Amanda has to say at the moment, but like I feel like it's more or less easier said than done for most.
Sure.
For most, because it's like a healing journey is something as simple as going for a walk with the dog. It could be something as simple as that, or playing video games, or something to get you away from what you're going through in life. I feel like for people, it could just be anything to heal with. Anything that gets, it'd be for me personally, anything that could get my mind off of what's going on in real life. I feel, in a sense, it could feel like I'm kind of just throwing it off to the side, and it's like, oh, I'll get to it later. But in like my personal perspective, it kind of just like resets me. It gives me a nice reset. So like if I go for a walk with the dog, or even if just go outside and just watch the dog run around, it's something that I'm doing mentally to allow a full mental reset. I'm not worrying about what's going on in life. I'm just worrying about not even worrying. I'm enjoying just watching my dog have fun playing in the backyard by himself.
It's major healing aspect.
Yeah, it's something just so simple like that. But I feel like even though like we're talking about it in like, I don't know about everybody else, but for me personally, I feel like it's quite easier for me to find a way to heal, to drop the bag and let it just sit there for a second. Maybe I'll get to it later, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just let it stay there and forget about it entirely and not let that burden on my life. But I feel like there's a lot of people out there that just can't. Like you had said, they hold on to that bag forever when they literally could just drop it. But I feel like some people just don't know how to.
Yeah, we're trained as kids, men and women. We're trained as kids to believe that we're the ones that need to hold the world. And Shawn, you mentioned earlier in a different topic we were on with the ego. So when we feel, and I got, a shout out to my Thursday night client, I love you, and he is exactly what you just described, where he carries everything. And when there was a passing in his life, he almost had like an anxiety attack, a panic attack. He almost shut down because he felt that all of their burdens just fell onto him. So he, as a man, felt he had to carry it all, and it led him further into anxiety attacks, further into a struggle in that sense. So the goal of our sessions for the past couple of years has become being able to give yourself time for one, but being able to realize that it's not all on your shoulders. And I agree with you, it's the toughest thing for so many people to do because we are trained from a young age, it's on you. And if you don't do it, no one else will. To an extent, yeah, your goals are your goals. But to realize that not all the burdens that you think are there are yours, I think a lot of us, men and women, choose to take hold of more than we're supposed to carry. There's an aspect you're supposed to carry, and there's an aspect you're supposed to be able to put down, to take the dog for a walk, to be able to put down, play a video game, to be able to put down, go to the gym, to be able to put down, and whatever people want to do for their self-care. But to realize that the world doesn't end when you put that down is the lesson in all of it. Because that's what allows you to rejuvenate. That's what allows you to realize, like, okay, you know what? This all doesn't have to be done this moment, and that could be anything. This all doesn't end now. I can get to it. So for you to be able to say you've learned that lesson, that could be the lesson in all of it. Meaning you pass the test, you level up. Not to say you level up and more burdens come to you. You level up in the sense that you can handle this and you see it from a higher perspective to realize like, all right, that didn't break me. All right, I know how to handle it if it's on my shoulders. I know how to get through it. That's the healing journey. Being able to realize like, oh, you know what? It's not as bad as I made it out to be. Because the ego is going to tell you that you have to be in control. You have to have your hand on everything. And so if we look at past generations, like more recent generation, our generation from the ages that we are a much more self-in-tune generation. The generation before us that were the workers, they were the ones that were majority electricians, metal workers, factory workers, plumbers, all HVAC. The entire aspect is they have to be able to tangibly do something, and that's how they make money. So in that regards, the generation was supposed to do it because it elevated society. But in that regards, you're being trained that it's all on you. You got to break your back to make sure you get to the next level. So you open the door for the next generation, which was the kids of that generation, which is us. And so with us being able to realize that we have an open door thanks to the past generation, to be able to look back and help them heal, but be able to look forward and realize it's going to be different. So that's the reason. It's like a lot of us are trained a certain way where it's all on you. It's all on you. But in reality, we were never supposed to accept that belief. We're supposed to elevate that belief. But I want to pass it off to you because I know we've been talking a lot. Yeah.
I agree with what you mentioned earlier in terms of healing, how, like, kind of a identity is what comes up for me.
Yep.
Even almost in terms of, like, some chronic illnesses as well.
Yep,
like,
for sure.
And I don't mean this badly. Even my mom, for example, love her to death.
Yeah.
But she's got fibromyalgia, and she wears that like it's her identity. And I even spoke to a woman. I haven't interviewed her on the podcast yet, but she told me she healed her fibromyalgia by telling herself she doesn't have it.
Exactly. Right? And that's the power of the mind. That's why I love teaching people what I do, because it's everything that we have, everything that happens in your life, is the energy we put out there is based on a belief system. At your core, you wholeheartedly believe this. If you want to dive into manifestation, that's what that is. But your life has created or manifested from the belief system, the foundational beliefs you stand on. So if you're sitting there, and you mentioned the fibromyalgia, for one woman to be told that you have this and that's it, and if you accept that, that is your identity, as you said. For someone that can, hey, you got this, nah, I'm good, I'm fine, and you take it into your own hands and realize, like, no, I'm not going to believe because this person told it to me. I'm going to believe what I believe, and your belief is what dictates every experience you have in your life. So I know I can connect very much to that story. I got a great friend. He's a mentor of mine. He's in his 70s right now. He was diagnosed with stage 4 heart disease 14 years ago. They gave him a week to live. He took it into his own hands and says, nah, I'm gonna do this. And he took, to an extent, the doctor's input, but they were going to basically kill him off. He said, no, I'm not. He went home. He laid on his couch for 2 days, and he was, like, dying. And he said to himself, I'm going to the gym. And he got up. He went to the gym, and that was 14 years ago as of 2 weeks ago. He has pretty much a robot attached to his chest to make sure his heart is pumping. He is a medical marvel in the sense that doctors thought he was going to die numerous times, and his heart has stopped numerous times, but he's still here because he chose to be here. He chose to not let what a doctor said be his death sentence, be his life sentence. So his concrete belief in himself is that he can always get through this. And he looks to other people. He could be dead at any moment, but he looks around the world and goes, there's so much worse going on. How could I think that this is bad? And when you have that belief in yourself, but in the rest of the world, you realize, like, you know what? This isn't that bad. I can get through it. And that's a healing process. That's realizing that just because someone on a clipboard said X, Y, and Z, it's your choice if you're going to attach to that or not attach to that. Meaning, hey, I get it says that, but I'm going to walk this way. And when you walk that way, it opens doors for you to realize your own self-power, your own self-improvement, your personal power, your personal growth, every term you want to put on it. But it allows you to let go and realize, like, okay, this is in my hands, but my belief has always been in my hands. And if my belief is going to be so much impacted by the external, then everything about me is impacted by the external, when everything about you was meant to come from the internal. And that's your belief system. So I agree with you tenfold.
I would love to touch on that real quick. Not to cut you off. I want to touch with one thing that you said about it all being in the mind, and I truly believe that. I believe that you are your best friend and you are your worst enemy. 100%. Your mind, and it's the craziest thing in the world because your mind controls every little thing you do in your life. If it's to be happy, sad, upset, joyful, anything, your mind controls it all. And it even comes down to something as simple as this, and it's the craziest thing in the world that I noticed, and it's helped me so much. So I have a really bad problem with motion sickness. I get dizzy very, very quick, super bad on like boats or like spinny rides or stuff like that. And I beat myself up about this. My first time I ever went on a cruise, I was just beating myself. I know I'm going to go on this boat. I'm going to get sick. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be the worst vacation ever. I'm going to spend all this money just to get sick. Ended up spending like $170 for this motion sickness band. Bought all these patches that you put behind your ear, and bought Dramamine to survive this vacation because I thought it was going to be literally the end of me. Come to find out, everything went well. I had the $170 motion sickness bracelet on. I took a Dramamine once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once before I went to bed for the first 3 days. I kept the bracelet on. I was like, all right, let me cut that back on the Dramamine. Let's test it. Test the waters a little bit. And I was like, all right. Went from 2. I started the next day, so it was like, 3 days in? 4th day I went with 2, and then the 5th day I went with 1. 6th day I had none. So I'm almost at the end of the trip. Last like 3 days of this trip, no Dramamine. Still had the bracelet on. Here's the funny part, what I'm trying to get to. I know this was a long story. I had the bracelet on wrong the entire time. It was completely placebo.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the hugest placebo effect. And when I felt that I was going to get sick, no matter how much Dramamine I had in me, no matter the stupid bracelet I had on my wrist, no matter the patch I had on the back of my ear, it was in my mind. If I knew I was getting sick, I would just find something quick to get my mind off of the fact that I am feeling sick.
Right.
And it would all go away. Don't get me wrong. Motion sickness is there and dizziness is there because once it hits me, I'm done. Like, it completely destroys me. But if I can catch the fact that my mind is trying to tell my body, all right, you're going to get sick, and I just reverse it and be like, no, I'm not. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go play some pool.
Yep.
I'm going to go sing karaoke. I'm going to go to the bar and get some drinks or go grab a slice of pizza. And then the motion sickness is just gone. I found that through that process that your mind controls everything you do. And if you can find a way for you to physically control your mind instead of your mind controlling you, I think there's a lot that a single person can do with their life if they're able to find that to where you're not allowing your mind to completely control you. You control your life.
100%. Exactly. And, I can build on that. I'm going to pass it back off to Amanda in a second because in the areas of what you just said, being able to control your mind, I said the last time I was on here, it's what I teach in my workshops and my seminars. The only areas that we individually have control over in our life is your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And that is how you train your mind. Those three areas, your thoughts, you choose what you think. We live in a world now where we focus so much on the external and we're scrolling through Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and everything else that we're sitting there and we're being impacted by external, making us think this and to this and to this and to this, and we question why people have attention deficit disorder, and we're sitting there and we're scrolling. So we're being impacted by every single scroll. In reality, you choose in that moment, I'm going to keep scrolling. I'm that, oh my goodness, that, oh my goodness, oh, is that. So you're choosing your thoughts in that moment. So you have a choice over what you think, what runs through your mind. And then your words, you are the only one that chooses the words that come out of your mouth. But you are the only one that chooses the words that run through your mind. So your internal dialogue, when you can choose to write that a little bit higher level, a little bit more positive, we'll say on a simple standpoint. And then your actions, your thoughts, your words dictate what your actions will be. And when those actions then impact a more positive aspect of your life, your mind gets behind it. It goes, oh, wait, this is helping us. Oh, wait, that felt good. Coming back to the joy, the love, the freedom, everything Shawn started with. And so in pursuing that, because your thoughts, your words, and your actions, those are the three areas you have full control over, but that's how you begin to control your mind. Connecting to Amanda right now, why I wanted to do that pass to her is because the breath work is what allows you to connect to higher levels of your mind, of healing, of higher self, of being able to elevate your energy to a higher level to do all this. So when you're helping people with the breath work, or you're talking about breath work with people on your podcast, everything like this, how have you seen people with the mind elevate in some way? Because you mentioned healing.
Breath work?
Through breath work, yep, exactly. Because breath work opens doors to everything that we're saying.
It's been different for a lot of people. Really different for a lot of people. I spoke to a woman recently that it cured her mom rage. I didn't know mom rage was a thing because I don't have kids.
Right.
But she was like, you could have the best kids in the world because I think I do, but I had the worst mom rage. And I said, oh.
Interesting.
And she had done therapy, she had done all this different stuff, and it wasn't until breathwork allowed her to pass through that. Like let go of even some of the stories. Shawn and I have talked a lot about stories, whether you're saying them out loud, whether they're in your head, we've all got stories.
Right. Right. So it allows you to, because all that, it shifts them, right? And it's like and believe it or not, the breath lights up other aspects of your brain, so other aspects of your mind. So it allows you to see those stories, those beliefs you've been telling yourself, and realize like, oh my goodness, I don't want that. And you let go of it and you heal, right? Exactly.
And you can stop saying things to yourself that people see a lot of different transformations. Sometimes they don't even know how or why.
Yeah, true.
From consistently doing breathwork.
100%. I agree with that. Shawn, what's your take on all this?
I'm indifferent, right? And I've been a big believer in training the mind, and everything that we're talking about right now. And like, I'll start with Amanda, right? The fibromyalgia, right? It's not something that you are, it's just something you're experiencing. And as I'm getting more in touch with faith in God, even thoughts, even everything that we're talking about, is it ours, or can we just give it up to God? Can you give everything to him?
Right.
So I don't know, right? And this is where I'm trying to understand, right? My mind, my ego, even with your story, right? And, okay, it was my mind that made it so that I was able to go and not have motions. Was it your mind, or was it God working through you? And this is where I'm trying to understand, and I'm not sure yet, right? And so it's interesting to me how much, right? I'm a big reader. I like to learn. Is it me? Is it my ego? Is it like the mind that's working all this, or is it simply God working through me?
Okay. So I love that. I love your life story. I do, because you come to so many great doors that are open. And so with this question, man, it's so I can connect it to the faith aspect, and I connect it to the mind aspect. And a lot of people don't realize this, but when you read in the Bible, and the Bible talks about the flesh versus the spirit, the flesh is the ego. The flesh is us, and us trying to control everything. That's why a lot of people, when you read the scriptures and it talks about the flesh, or it talks about sin, or it talks about the devil and all these areas, yes, there's a very deep spiritual meaning to that. But at the same time, if we look at that through our human lens, the lower level emotions, the anger, the depression, the despair, the powerlessness, all of those aspects are the ego being bogged down. So when we're sitting there and we're connecting to his story, or my story, man's story, your story, and is it the mind getting through it? That's why I love teaching people the mind so much, is because the mind was the tool we were given. So we were blessed with the mind to be able to do what we were supposed to do here. So in the topic of your ego versus the spirits, that's why I keep coming back. I said at the start of it's predominantly, it's your higher self. Your higher self is a spiritual version of you that you're always infinitely spiritually connected to. And a lot of people can connect that to the energy you give off, or the aura, or whatever term you want to put for it. Your higher self is up there. It's always in heaven. Is directly connected to you. And if people have eyes that see and ears that hear, they can be able to see that connection. And so your higher self is always guiding you. That's why you always can receive information. Your higher self, you can call it God, you can call it the Holy Spirit, but it is the creator. But it's the creator in you. Because if we really dive into the scriptures, Jesus told us this, but it's throughout numerous cultures, whether you go through a Christian perspective, a Buddha perspective, or whatever, all of these spiritual connotations are meant to show us that the great I am, that's the first name God ever said back in the scriptures. So, but we were told that to be able to speak that. Because whatever comes after I am becomes your belief of who you are, your story, your identity, everything. So in the topic of ego versus the spirits, the more you can move forward into the spirit version of yourself, the higher self, the spiritual area of yourself, the more that ego starts to diminish. And the more the ego diminishes, the less control you think you have to have in your life, and the more you allow your faith, your trust, your peace to then move forward. And that's where I started to see myself grow my own spiritual journey, where this happened the other day. What day was this? Wednesday? Tuesday night. I was supposed to have a client Wednesday morning. We planned it out on Monday. He texts me Tuesday night, and he goes, "Hey, man, I got to stop working with you." And like there were some complications on his end, so he had to stop working. I'm like, and so I read that, and I'm like, all right, man, hey, no worries, dude. We worked great together, man. I got it. Hopefully you can come back whenever you need to, blah, blah. Go do what you got to do. And I sent that to him. Didn't see him. That was that. And I read a book every single morning after I lift, and it's Jesus Calling. And it's just a devotional, one page every single day. And today's devotional was basically in the sense of paraphrasing the whole thing, but it's making sure that his peace, God's peace, becomes your peace. And you start to see that growth in your life where things happen, circumstances, experiences happen that you probably didn't want to happen, but they don't push you or sway you. You're aligned. You're aligned in this moment, so you have that peace that doesn't waver. That's operating out of a spiritual area rather than ego, because that client telling me, hey, I can't work with you anymore. If my ego was there, I would have been upset. I would have gone to the lower level emotions. I've been aggressive, whatever it is. Like, dude, we got blah, blah, blah. But it's like, all right, you know what, man? Hey, you got to do what you got to do. I hope the best for you. I'm always in your corner no matter what. Operating out of a spiritual area because you're doing it for the love of the other person. And then when I read that devotional today, I'm like, I know I've grown in that area. And that's all glory to God. But that's my spiritual walk. Your walk's different than mine. A man's walk's different than mine. His walk's different than mine. The dog's walk's different than ours. It's at the end of the day, your walk is your walk, and it's a matter of not judging your walk based off of everyone else's, because that's when the ego takes over. So every time we talk about flesh, we're talking about, hey, if you allow your sinful nature or your flesh take over, it's your ego. It's all a deeper aspect of what your ego wants and what your spirit wants. So your higher self, when you do something, because this whole thing's on purpose and passion that we started on, when you're following your purpose and your passion, your spirit's alive. Your light's guiding you every step of the way, meaning God's guiding you every step of the way. The universe is guiding you every single step of the way. Your higher self is helping you in every single step. And when the ego is that, you tend to hit roadblock after roadblock. And I'll say this, and I'll pass it off to someone else because I know I'm going off on a rant. So meditation and prayer are the two greatest things you can do to grow your spiritual walk. Yes, acts of service for others, but you need to recharge yourself before you can go into that too often. So this was 2 weeks ago? No, 3 weeks ago at this point. I just finished writing a book and on a workshop that I do. It's called A Blueprint to a Confident Leader. And I had, back in June, was asked to put an online course together on this Blueprint to a Confident Leader. And I did it, and I typed up all the scripts and everything, did the voiceover for all these PowerPoint presentations, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there, and I woke up at 4 in the morning for the gym, like I always do, and it was on my mind that speakers are able to help more people, get their name out there more, or spread their support through books more. And I was like, I always knew that, but I never acted on it. And it was on my mind all day in the gym. I go home, I have my client at 9 a.m. It's 8:45. I'm like, I got to meditate before I hop in here. So I meditate. I literally meditate for 5 minutes. In that meditation, I just want to align. I want to connect to a higher power. At that 4-minute mark, it came through, and I received exactly how to write my book fast. To write my book was the support I needed to get it done. To write my book, this entire plan was laid out before me. If I stayed in the state that I was in, meaning just, oh, crap, I got this at 9 a.m. Oh, crap, I got 15 minutes. There's no point in doing this. I'll just sit here and be on my phone for the next 15 minutes. I'm not doing anything to lessen myself. I'm not doing anything to better myself. But when you sit in the alignment of meditation or prayer, what you're doing is you're aligning your spirit to a higher power source, a higher creator, the creator of the source of everything. So when you align yourself, your spirit is now aligned to what created it, so you start to receive information. And that's when, if we dive deep into cultures or scriptures, they always talk about they hear God's voice. I don't know if I've ever heard an audible voice, but I've heard him talk. It comes through in a thought form, and I get this entire image in my head. And I know, I've said it numerous times, like sometimes I'll feel it come into my head when I'm aligned like that, which is awesome. But you know it wasn't you. Meaning it's not your ego. If my ego took over, you'd be like, oh, dude, I came up with that. Yep, done all this. That's why when people tell me, oh, dude, how did you think of this? I'm like, it wasn't me. You know? And that's the beauty of the spiritual walk, which you asked earlier, the healing journey. Spiritual journey, but it's a healing journey, to realize how powerful you actually are.
It's, then we get back on the conversation of the healing journey, right? And is it really about the healing, or is it just uncovering to who you actually are?
I would echo that tenfold.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay. So, again, we're the co-creator. I'd like to hear your thoughts, actually.
In terms of healing?
In terms of giving everything up to a higher power, right? And just like we were talking about the outcomes, right? When we, let's try to full circle this. So the wins, the loss, all of these different things, can we give everything up to a higher power? Is anything even ours, right? Or is it only God's and he's working through us, and this is just what I'm experiencing?
You asking me? Or you asking me that?
I want to. So I want to.
Yeah.
I want to. I want
Yeah.
to tap in real quick.
I know
'cause-
I'm going with more questions here, but like
No, so so I
I'd
want
like
to talk
everyone's
talk to
perspective.
this in a different perspective.
Please.
So as someone who I grew up Catholic, went through the whole 9 where you go through CCD to learn about the faith and to learn about the religion and stuff like that, and then realize that this is just me personally. Realize it's a bunch of bullshit. Truly a bunch of bullshit. I think that religion is 1, too forced. 2, I feel that if someone is really pushing you to believe in somebody or think that somebody is real, I don't think that that's right.
I agree with you.
And for me, I believe that there is a God out there. There is somebody that created the world we live in. There is somebody that controls the things that go on in our day-to-day life. If it's not personally or around you, it's something. There's something that allows the world to go as it is. But I don't think it's in a religion aspect because you can't put something. Well, for me personally, I don't think you can throw what's going on in life into different sections. Everybody's realistically living the same type of life, just in a different form. So you have that somebody like if you watch the movies where you have the devil on your shoulder, you have the angel on your shoulder, guiding you through different things, telling you the rights and the wrongs to get you to learn things throughout your life. I believe that listening to a guy in a white robe or a black robe over an altar saying this stuff that realistically was man-made. In my eyes, it was man-made. So there's no way, in my eye, there's no way that God wrote the Bible. There's no way that Jesus wrote the Bible. And that's how I was taught back in school, that's who created the Bible. And obviously when you get older, you realize that it wasn't them. It was the people under them who took their life lessons, put it in a book for all to read. And that's how I've always come to it. I've never read the Bible and probably will never ever read the Bible. I'm not a reader, and that's just something I feel like the Bible is connected through religion and is not connected through the person who is there looking over you. In a sense, if that makes sense. So it's like I believe that there's somebody out there, don't know what it is, don't know what it could be, but I know that there's somebody guiding me in my life, not having to, like you said, go through like you said go through like prayer or something like that. Like there's different ways, like for people who are in my seat, there's different ways to make something like a prayer. It doesn't realistically have to be like how my religion was. You need to get on your knees, put your hands together, lean over your bed, and look up at the sky, close your eyes, and start saying a prayer. No. A prayer could be anything that allows you to pretty much go to your subconscious and allows you to talk to yourself but avoid everything around you to allow you to just soak in to what's going on inside of you, to allow you to connect to somebody that can point you in the right direction or point you to somewhere where they're going to allow you to learn something that you need to learn. And everybody needs to fail to find success, because if you just succeed your entire life, realistically, what have you learned? In a sense, you need to fail to learn different things. And I always talk about it, and even now, it's like there's some things, like the things that I'm going on through life. I'll be like, in my mind, I'll be like, if there's somebody out there listening, please help me with what I need. Help me in this journey. But I'm not going to sit there, as I was taught, as I was told, get on your knees and put your hands together and look at the sky. Realistically, I think that's silly. I think that's stupid, and people do that, and I'm not knocking that. For me personally, that's stupid. I don't like that, and that's just how I am. And like, yeah, I still go to church, but I think it's just a bunch of nonsense. I think for the hour that you are in church, I feel like a lot more can be taught. But that's also just for me, a personal perspective from my own. I feel like talking about the same thing over and over and over and over again, and not doing things that are new, or working on things to change, and just working off the same script isn't changing anybody. It's just, you just have a big audience just listening to whatever you're saying. And that's meaning like in a pastor's perspective. Like, you're sitting at the altar reading, in my sense, a bunch of nonsense, which you could turn around. And there are different churches. I have a friend that he's super within his religion. I believe he's a Christian, and he learns a lot of different things that I feel should be implemented to other religions. And it's more of like eye-opening. Like, no, you don't have to believe in the Bible, believe that it was created by one man and this and that. And this is just talking as a Catholic. I feel that being able to know that there are different things in this world that can point you into a certain direction is a great way to allow somebody to go. Because if they're in one spot and they're like, I've just always been taught this one thing, but I can't get this one thing to work. How am I supposed to find my inner conscience, or how am I supposed to talk to that man above when what I'm doing isn't working? Because they were never taught that you can find another way that works for you to get to where you need to be. And that's luckily what I had found after going through the whole BS 9 years of Catholic CCD classes, that the shit that they taught me was just an absolute waste of time, a bunch of nonsense. But at the end, it taught me that what they were teaching me allowed me to find my path to where I need to go to find the person that, if I ever need to speak to, is there. That the person that they're teaching me is fictitious to me, is fake to me, but I'll be able to find the person that I need to believe in a sense.
I get that. And I'll pass up to you, Shawn, in a second.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with much of what you said. I actually agree with a lot of what you said. And I might not use the same vocabulary, but I would definitely agree with a lot that you said, because I wasn't raised Catholic. I found my faith when I was in the darkest time of my life. However, since finding my faith, I've grown very much into a different form of that faith. And I study on my own. I grow on my own. I let God lead me in that. That's not me going to a building every single Sunday. That's me finding my way to connect to Him, which is, yes, I will still use the modalities of prayer, of meditation. Meditation, when I first came to my faith, like, you weren't allowed to use that word. You weren't in the church that I was going to way back when. It's like, if you said meditation, it's like, oh, we don't do that here. I'm like, well, it says it in this scripture that Jesus meditated on the word. And it's like, well, yeah, you meant read on the word. I'm like, okay. And I always had these bigger thoughts. And I'd ask the leaders these bigger thoughts, and they either wouldn't have answers or they'd turn me away. I go, all right, what? And then my experiences in a church standpoint has actually brought me more pain than comfort. And that's not discounting faith whatsoever. It was just the people I was around. And I think, much to what you said, in a religious standpoint, I said this the last time I was on your podcast, you have religion in the world and you have spirituality. Religion is the vehicle to get you to spirituality. You are someone that, from a very young age, didn't need this to realize that there's more here. And so you have your own ways of connecting to spirituality, to the Creator, to God, whatever term you want to put on it. Whether you call it Jesus, whether you call it universe, whatever term people want to put on it. So if religion is the vehicle to be here, I said this in the last church I was going to a couple years back, and everyone's like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And I said it in your podcast just as much. If we sit there and you have a house, and you have your house, everyone watching, you have your house, we're in a building right now, and every single room of that house has a window. and you look out that window and you see the world, or you see the universe out of that window. But you get a specific image of the universe from that window. You can't see everything just through what's through that window. You go to the next room and you see the universe, but it looks a little bit different because you're still there, and yet it's just not the same image. If I sat there and said one of those rooms was Islam, one of those rooms was Christianity, one of those rooms was Catholicism, one of those rooms was Buddhism, one of those rooms was whatever other culture we put on there, and then I'm sitting there and I'm only seeing a viewpoint, a fractured viewpoint of the universe, of what God created, of who I am and everything, just through this one window. But I was a kid that loved to play outside. So if I go outside of this house, I see everything God created. So those rooms are your modalities to get you to realize there's more out there. And that's spirituality. So for you, you don't connect to a religious standpoint. I applaud you, because I was always someone, like, again, I wasn't raised Catholic. And so my buddies that were raised Catholic, they would tell me things and I'd be like, what? Like it just, not in the sense of Jesus or faith or anything, but there are, I think it's in its 60s, I don't know how many terms, but there's different sections of Christianity. I'm like, what? Isn't there supposed to be one? Mm-hmm. And I never comprehended that until I realized the deeper you go. I think I said on the last podcast I was with you, I started reading the books that got removed from the Bible. And not all of them, just a few of them here and there. And I'm like, well, why'd they get removed? And Jesus teaches so much more in these. Why were they removed from it? And then you realize this is just what I've studied, in 841 AD, Emperor Constantine of the Roman Catholic government picked and chose what scriptures he wanted in the Bible, and he edited it. And I'm sitting there and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. What? That means there was more that Jesus did that we aren't learning? And then you find these other scriptures through studies, and you realize what was actually hidden from us and kept from us, and you realize that, I always ask people that go deep into faith conversations, like, hey, was Jesus a Christian? If I asked you that, was Jesus a Christian?
From what I know, he was Jewish.
100%. He was not a Christian.
Yeah.
The people that followed him were Christians. Jesus' true belief was that we are connected. We are
one.
God. So when you said earlier, and I was just going to put this out, you said you can go to something external to know that there's someone there. If there's someone out there, in reality, there's someone in here. That's what Jesus wanted us to understand. And Jesus is our connection to be able to realize there's so much more to this life than just go to work, wake up, go to work, come home, wake up, go to work, come home. And that's where, when people are living without a deeper calling of their life, they can go to a religion, they can go to Buddhism, they can go to Christianity, they can go to whatever, and they find a deeper meaning. Because they realize there's a deeper meaning, there's a deeper purpose, there's a deeper passion on their life, there's a deeper love on their life, because it connects to who they are at their core. That's what Jesus wants us to realize. Whether you go to a building for it with four walls, whether you go to the woods has been the greatest church in the world for me. You go out there and you sit there, and all that you need is time with yourself, time with your Creator, time with God, and whatever term you want to put on God. But it's time to, as you said, connect to your subconscious, but to connect to that spiritual connection that you have to your higher power. So whether you use the term pray, meditate, walk, you mentioned you take your dog for a walk, it's a calming moment for you, that's a meditation. And so you're allowing an open space, whether you say open space of peace or open space of communication. And when you sit there and you say things like, if there's someone out there, just please help me with what I need, you opened up a form of communication to your Creator. And at that point, whether you receive an answer or an answer appears in your life, sometimes we live our life so close to the face, so close to the chest for that matter, that we miss all of the opportunities or the blessings that are all around us, because we think our ego, we think we're in so much control. In reality, when we can trust, have peace, and let go, and have faith that's all come together, we can take it off and realize, oh my goodness, my answer is right there. Oh my goodness, my answer is right there. Oh my goodness, that person has brought me exactly what I needed. Because sometimes we live life so tense that it blocks the channel from us being able to receive the information we need. So I echo everything you said. Just looking at it differently, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. At the same time, like, it's great, you still go to church, but if it's not the modality that you want to use to connect, just know that there's a higher power out there. And to me, that's like good for you. Whether you call it Jesus, Like, I sit there and I never understood how one religion can say that if you don't follow us, you're going to hell. And I was like, there's 8 billion people in the world, and in the times of their lives, there's a good chance that some of them aren't going to know what Christianity is. Like, they just found indigenous people in the middle of the Amazon, and you're telling me that all of those people in their entire ages for millennia died and went to hell because no one came to them with a Bible. And I sat there like, to me, I never connected with that because I'm like, no, God loves everyone. If God loves everyone because we are connected to him, that means he still has his hand on them regardless. And then the deeper you go into spirituality, and I'll save this for another time, but the deeper you go into spirituality, you realize like, okay, it was all supposed to be that way. Sometimes with the spread of Christianity, it spread in a very, not so good way, but back in the ages. And so when you realize that there's more to these scriptures, there's more to Jesus, there's more to Yeshua, his real name, Yeshua ben Joseph was his true given name, and that translates to like the letter J became a letter like recently in our years, like in the past like 100, 200, 300 years. So back then, his name was Yeshua, and Yeshua in their language is I get the closest thing to a J, so we started. So it's Yeshua ben Joseph, and Joseph being his human father and everything like this. And so when you dive deeper into all this stuff that we weren't taught as we're kids, like your mind expands, your awareness of your spiritual life expands, so you can connect. And then that's what pushed me further into prayer, because I realized like, now I get it. Now I get when I communicate, I receive. When I ask, it is given. And I'm like, now I understand these scriptures more. However, my viewpoint of the scriptures, they aren't as tense. Because some people take the scriptures and it's like, it's this way or the highway. I'm like, all right, release for a second. Because someone might not look at it that way, and they got to look at it this way. And if you are only pushing this way, you're not connecting and helping them in the way they need. But that's what Jesus did. He showed them love in every way that he could. So that's why I still think that he is I tell everyone, it's like with my story, in this moment of my life, I don't necessarily identify with Christianity. I identify as a follower of Jesus, because he wasn't a Christian, and he never put labels on him, because he wanted to reflect it back to ourselves. So with us coming here and putting labels on everything, what you're doing is sectioning off everyone else. And just like, no, that's not what I called you to do. So I agree, again, rounding up my entire rant. I agree with what you said. Again, I look at it just a little bit differently, but there's more power there. You're young, so you definitely have an opportunity to grow in whatever opportunity you want to. Whether it is spirituality, a lot of people turn away from that in their life and then find it later in life and wish they didn't. So it's just a matter of knowing that if you're a human being, an energetic being, and a spiritual being, it's good to give time to that spiritual part. Because no matter, you were a spirit before you were a human, and you were a spirit before your ego, and you were a spirit before your mind. So when you realize that concept, a lesson, if we come back to what I said earlier in a different topic, a lesson that your spirit came here to learn to begin to shine like that diamond could be that you had to go through a time in your life where you didn't agree with these areas because it was meant to lead you to a deeper area. There's a lot of people that did that in their stories. And that's why it's incredible. Like you mentioned, Shawn, that you listen to certain podcasts on Joe Rogan and everything like that. It's like, that's phenomenal, because everyone's story has a different meaning. And when someone hears it, it opens up another door. So your lesson and your spiritual walk and healing journey in this life could very well be to find that different perspective. That's incredible. But it's all intertwined. But
it's, I was talking before this. There's a lot of wisdom in this room, right? Like, we can feel it now.
Definitely.
And so in terms of how much knowledge Billy has around Scripture, I don't have that much knowledge yet. And so I'll just talk about my own experience thus far. When I used to say the word God, I would, my heart would not feel, I felt uncomfortable. But now, I would have never in my life thought that I would be on a podcast, openly speaking about how I'm finding faith. And so this is not to downplay that there's all of these religious aspects that I don't believe in. So I'm in a very similar boat with Billy, of that everyone's spiritual path and how they find faith is different. And I used to be someone that would throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And so just like you had said, where for 9 years, like I had all this, it's all BS. Well, I think that may be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, where you can take what resonates and just discard what doesn't. And so Amanda and I were having a conversation similar to this on her podcast. I'm trying to think of what we were talking about, but I used to be the person that would sit there, lay in my bed at night, God, why is this happening to me? Right? If you're real, do something. Move an object, right? Like speaking like you're trying to get a ghost to do something in your room, you know? And the biggest thing that I started to figure out and find, or that was shown to me, was why are you putting me through these circumstances? If you loved me, you would not put me through these circumstances, change these circumstances. I have these circumstances not to go because I've been given the circumstances so that I would change. That's why I have been given the circumstances for me, right? And just like it was like, oh my God, like the second time I was arrested, I was like, no, this shouldn't be happening to me. Like, no. But would I be having this conversation if that didn't happen? No. Right? So like you can only see it when it's in the past. But when you're going through something, it's just like, okay, I want strength and I want wisdom. So what am I given? Challenges, right? So that I have the strength, because just like you were talking about, if you just succeeded everything, then you're not growing, you're not having any different characteristic traits or anything. This is what we were talking about. It's, oh shoot, I just lost it. Do you ever, this is why I started to have faith in a higher power, right? God works for me, higher power works for me, different for all walks of life. Have you ever not had enough? No. You've always just landed on your feet, right? Whether you're homeless or whether, like, we're sitting here just doing a podcast. Like, through all of our life's challenges, everyone listening to this podcast, they have an iPhone or a computer. Like, even though it feels scarce and it feels like, how am I ever going to get through this? Like, oh my God, like, I hate this job, XYZ. Like, when you operate out of love and you just have blind faith, it always ends up working out. Just because it doesn't work out the way you should think that it, like, this is how I want it to look. This is how it needs to look like. That's that outcome focused again. And so for me, faith has been, it's always worked out for me. I'm going to follow my heart. And wherever I land is where I land. Because it's always, it doesn't matter like, okay, you know what? I took this day off of work or I got fired from this job. I always just have enough money to magically pay my bills. Always. Yep. And even if you don't, like, again, that's that. Okay, I've been homeless or whatever. Like, I'll bring you back to a short story for me. Like, when I was in college, I was kicked out of housing, but I didn't have a car or a license. So my mom would drop me off with a bag on Monday, and I would go and take my bag. I would shower at the gym, and I would stay at someone else's place all week, and she would pick me up every Friday night, right? And so even though it feels like, why is this happening? This shouldn't happen to me, all these different things, like, I managed through it. But now I have a roof over my head. Like, I don't have to, like, go and, find a place to live and all these different things. Like, even though it feels when you're going through it, like, there's a deeper meaning for it, right? And so it really taught me, like, who's in my support system? Who can I lean on? What can I do to figure this out? How can I, it's helping mold me, right? And that's been a lot of my direction of faith and what is like continuing to transpire for me. I don't know what of that is helpful, not helpful, or if none.
Well,
I have a question. So they already clarified, but did you grow up with religion?
We grew up going to like Sunday school.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's what's
that's
CCD.
like a
Yep.
CCD
Okay.
type thing.
Okay.
It's
No, I was just
we-
curious.
it was more just something we did because like that's what
A little
we were
it's less structured.
less structured.
Because
It
I
was
had a
like-
very similar experience to you. I went to a Catholic school, so like up until 8th grade. So it was and we went to church, I at least once a week. So now, like, I believe in God, but organized religion, I don't. I don't go to church. And you know, it was one of those things. You can't talk to God unless you're in church. I don't believe that.
Gotcha. Good.
And you know what? I can talk to God no matter where I am. And I can devote to a higher power. I don't have to be in this, you know, I felt it was very structured, very like organized. Oh, you're giving this donation. It's like we bring $100 every week to church. It's like, why can't I just talk to God and devote my life to this higher? Why do I have to have, you know? It seemed so controlled to me. And I didn't love that.
For sure.
I would love to touch on that because I'm so happy that you brought it up. People that say you have to be in church to
had somebody tell me
speak with
that.
God, that was the thing that pissed me off the most. Because what I've seen and noticed with religion, which I wanted to touch on when you guys were speaking, it is so forced and brainwashed. It's not even funny. Because when I came to the realization that Catholic is bullshit, the Catholic religion is bullshit, I had mentioned that, like, as soon as I, like, realized it, I was in the car, I remember it, I was in the car with both my mom and my dad, and I realized, and I'm like, this shit is stupid. Like, this is bullshit. Why am I learning a bunch of absolute nonsense? And my father, who grew up with a mom who is super religious, she was a Sunday night school teacher, she always went to church, she was at church like 3 or 4 times a week, super diehard Catholic, which there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have somebody that drills it into you so much, and then it just travels and travels and travels, and then like my mom's side of the family as well, like my grandfather used to go to church with my grandmother before she passed away. He doesn't really do so much now, but that's what he was, and it was just so drilled. And like when I had brought it up that like I don't believe in any of this anymore, it was kind of like, well, obviously it wasn't a shun, but it felt like a shun. Like, are you serious? Like, I feel like that's what the religions are doing. They're brainwashing those around and those who believe that if the people you're around don't believe, you shouldn't associate with them. And that's not saying that my parents disassociated with me. They actually understood and listened to what I had to say, which I appreciated. And obviously I was old enough. I had already graduated from Sunday school and did all that, so I had no obligation to go back. And my mom looked at it, was like, if you want to go back, you are more than welcome to go back, but I'm not going to force you, which I can respect, because now I've learned and found my own path and realized that this is a total waste of my time. This is a bunch of nonsense. Why am I going to waste my time to go to church every Sunday for an hour at 8 o'clock in the morning when I could be doing something way more productive with my life and deal with what I would have necessarily done in church later on in the day when I have the time or when I feel like it, not when it's put on me. Why do I have to go to church at 8 a.m. every Sunday to be able to do what I want to do, maybe at like after dinner? What's wrong with that? And then you brought up the whole money thing. That is another big thing, which is also annoying. Oh, you have to donate. So this was a big thing. To not make this super long, but I had gone to a wedding recently with my girlfriend, and it was in a Catholic church. And I told her right after, I am not doing this bullshit. Why do I have to sit through an hour-long church? 45 minutes of it is about God. 15 minutes of it's about the wedding. That was the biggest waste of my damn time. And they're like, oh, because it's technically, when you have a wedding in a church, it is free. It's free. It is on the church to bless you. It is I think it's called sacrament or something, whatever they call it. It is within the church you're supposed to get, if you're Catholic, you're supposed to get married in a church, and it's the church's duty to marry you within the church. So what they ask for is a generous donation. Sure. Donation, my ass. So why do they, when you're in church, why do they come with those baskets 2 times to collect money from you? Oh, it's a donation. No, it's going in the priest's pocket. It's going in the pocket. Like, yeah, I get it. It goes and fixes the church, some of it. But no, it pays the priest to be here. That's what it does. They take your money to do. That's why I think it's just a bunch of nonsense. I think it's just another money grab. Like, we were talking about something that was a money grab earlier. I forgot what it was. I know what it was, but I'm not going to bring it up. We were talking about something that was a money grab, and I feel like that is just another way that's coded to look like it's helpful, but in the sense, like, yeah, it is, but it's more of like just another money grab. Like, you don't need a church to find God.
And
You
it's
don't
forcing you to
need
perform. You got to be in this place. You got to pay the fee.
right, which I think is just so dumb, and that's what I feel like pushes people away. In a sense, I could be wrong, but in my eyes, I feel like that's what pushes people away when there's a vendetta behind it, when there's a objective behind these people going. Like, Sunday school was stupid. That was horrible. It was a waste of my time, and they forced, which is the craziest thing in the world. I think you should have the right to do what you want in life, to an extent, because obviously there's rules and there's laws of things that you can't do. But if I am forced to go to church, I think that that's silly. I shouldn't be forced to do anything. And I was forced. I had to go to church and sign a book that was in the front of the church to show that I was there. And the teacher would stand there at the end of the what the hell, it's the
Pew.
Yeah. Stand at the end, but they would watch and look to see if you were in church. Because some people would just come and just sign the book and just dip. But they would watch you. And if you weren't there and they didn't see you, you were penalized? Blows my mind. I am sorry about that rant, but that blows my mind. Because I think it's stupid.
No, I understand a lot of what you touch on, and this is the thing the perspective that I've grown with church, with scripture, with religion. The scriptures have so much power in them. So when the church, or I'm going to say religion, because every church is different. Every church does. I've been in some incredible churches that don't do much of what you just said, and then I know exactly the churches that do exactly what you just said. And so with religions that push all these rules and structures, and it needs to look this way. If it doesn't look this way, you're out. That's not what Jesus came to do. However, in certain aspects of churches, you have the power of the scripture in them. So if we look at the tithe, so yes, they come around with their baskets and everything like that, and I understand what you're saying. It goes straight to the priest. It goes to the building of the church. It does, which is, it does. However, I always sat there and I was like, because the church I used to go to, I would throw $20 in the bucket every single week, because I was going there not for the pastor. I wasn't going there for the building. I was going there because I needed this to heal. And so when I throw money in there, I go, hey, I don't I was giving out of the goodness of my heart to God, and that because this is something I needed. So hey, if they use it to build this place, phenomenal. It's going to help other people. With the tithe and relating to the scripture, the tithe was it's talked about where you're supposed to give 10% of your earnings that's what the tithe is supposed to be. So I always looked at the tithe differently, though, where if you sat there and the tithe is giving of what you have to someone that needs it. So I go, because God's meant to use us to help those around us. So if I use the tithe, because I can remember I would pay and I would drop the 20 in the bucket, and then I'd go, and Monday through Friday I would work and I'd help the inner city kids in Brockton, Massachusetts, who were struggling with their entire families ripped apart. They're struggling with depression, everything like that. And I'm giving my energy. I'm giving all the time I had. I didn't even have a life outside of this. Giving my time. And then I'd buy the kid that's family couldn't afford to get him a candy bar. And I'd buy this kid his birthday, his family couldn't buy him a toy, I'd get him a toy. And I sat there, I'm like, that's the tithe. That's the tithe right there. You're giving to better someone, whether you're using money, whether you're using time, and you're listening and you're helping someone, that's the tithe. And the scriptures show you that the power of the tithe is that when you can give, you receive. So that's why when you see, and then you guys mentioned the bucket and everything like this and the baskets, there are people that have literally given the last of their bank accounts into the tithe, and God blesses them tenfold. Because the 10% you're meant to give is meant to bless you tenfold. But how are you giving? If you're giving in the form of creation, if you're giving in the form of helping someone, if you're giving in the form of training when you were a personal trainer, you're listening to these people, if you're giving in the form of coaching, giving in the form of teaching people breath work and providing a space where people are allowed to learn, that's the tithe. You're using what was in you, whether it's money or energy or love and passion, to be able to spread that and help more people. That's the tithe. God rewards that. When you give, you receive. That's a scripture. So the other scripture that I want to bring up to you is, because a lot of them are so powerful, is we are told that when Jesus died on the cross, he appeared 3 days later, he blessed the disciples, he blessed all of us with the Holy Spirit. That's the meaning of when Jesus died and the earth shook and the curtain was torn, meaning the veil was torn so we could be able, God could then come to us through in heaven. My discrepancy with that is that we could always connect to God, but we didn't know it. So Jesus came and he shook the earth essentially, in metaphorically but also physically, in the sense of now we get it. Now we're blessed with the Holy Spirit. So when you said earlier you go to the external, but the internal is trying to speak to you, it says God's here. So we are blessed with the Holy Spirit to do that. When Jesus was on the cross, one of the disciples, or when he was on the verge of the cross, one of the disciples asked him, like, why don't you call on the angels to help you in the situation? Yeah, well, that was one of the Spartan warriors, or one of the warriors at the time, Catholic warriors, Roman warriors, yeah, get them all around. One of the Roman warriors was mocking Jesus and saying, like, oh, if you're truly the Son of God, why don't you call down the angels to help you? And Jesus basically said, I could right now, but he was meant to go through that, to die for our sins, to cleanse the world, essentially. And whether you believe that or whatever you believe. But my point behind bringing that up is that he could, through the power that he had, call down angels to help him. When we were blessed with the Holy Spirit, we have that power too. Us talking here right now, different levels of spirituality, different perspectives of spirituality, which is a phenomenal thing. I think more people have to talk like this to be able to open the gates of that. We don't realize, and you guys don't realize, I'm studying it so I get it a little bit more than most people, is the help and support that is constantly at the ready when you ask for it. When you ask for your angels or your spirits or your spirit guides or your guardian angels to help you, it's right there. But the point is that we have to ask. That is realizing the power that we have thanks to the Holy Spirit, to be able to call down heaven and help us, or to call out heaven and help us, is here. We don't have eyes that see and ears that hear. Most of us don't. Some people have the gift to do so, and I'm blessed to know people that do. They can see the angels coming down and helping people. They can see the people with the wings and the halos, literally what you'd see in a cartoon. They can literally see that helping whoever needs it. And so when we realize that the scriptures, coming back to my point, are meant to show you the power that you were blessed with, you were given to do so with, that's the point of us going to church and understanding the scriptures. But if the church is not teaching that capacity, much what you said, if the church, and what you said as well, if the church is going in and it's just, hey, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z every single Sunday, and you said 45 minutes talking about this, 15 minutes on the wedding, 15 minutes on this, whatever it is. I always sat there, and because when I grew up, I wasn't Catholic, but it was Greek Orthodox, and they spoke Greek, and my family didn't teach me Greek, so I would go in there and just stare at the pictures all day for like 10 years of my life. And they spoke in Greek for 45 minutes and then 10 to 15 minutes of English. I go, oh, what's he saying? And my grandparents go, oh, that was incredible. I'm like, was it? I didn't know, and because I didn't know, and so I sat there and realized that like they're getting something out of it because they understand it. Why it's forced upon the kids of most religions, I'm not going to say Catholic, it's most, why it's forced upon and it's meant to come in a loving manner. Catholicism really does, from what I've studied and talked to my friends about, it's being forced upon you. And so this comes back to a message I put out there on YouTube last year, and I've talked to pastors about this, and they're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. It's essentially saying, like, are you leading with your faith or are you leading with your fear? And if we're forcing religion, not spirituality, we're forcing religion onto people, are you leading with your fear, or are you leading with faith that God's going to help them when he needs to help them? He's going to bring them to where they're meant to be when they're meant to be. And if we're leading with fear, we're going to force and try and control everyone we can because we're afraid that if they don't follow this, they're screwed. And if you're leading with faith, you don't have to worry about a thing because God's got them too. And I sat there and I started to lead more with my faith, which is what the scriptures teach us. So as much as you can sit there and you can turn away from a priest or a pastor and like maybe a person, whoever it is, scriptures, at least, as much as I said earlier, those scriptures were altered, but a lot of those scriptures are still there that Jesus said. There's a lot of power in that. As much as you said you'll never pick up a Bible, no worries. But there's other forms of understanding that there's power in you that you were blessed with. And when to realize that you can act on that power and it's always at the ready. Shawn, you mentioned earlier that no matter, your faith has been grown because you realize that in the struggles of your life, all your needs were met. That's a scripture. All your needs will forever be met for all of us, no matter what. And when we can take ourselves out of that living life so close to the chest, we get a higher perspective to realize, like, wow, yeah, it could be worse. My buddy was stage 4 heart disease, and he looks at other people, it could be worse. I still got me, I got God, everything's good. And we can sit there and talk about that. All his needs are met. He's alive. He can breathe. He can walk. He can sit there and still get up and go to Dunkin's, get a cup of coffee, and even though he has a robot attached to his chest, and he's happy with that because his needs are met. He might not be perfect, but his needs are met. And it's still a belief in him that he can heal it because in the scriptures you can literally heal yourself, much to the breath work and everything like that. There's all of these different components that come into play here, but the beauty of that, to round out my entire talk right now, the beauty of that is that everyone's on different levels and everyone's learning at their own capacity, at their own speed, to be in the areas they're supposed to learn. You're supposed to learn breath work. You're supposed to find your way and find your passion in all these different areas. You're supposed to experience life. I'm supposed to form in some service to help people. You're supposed to find that you, as you said earlier, you're someone that creates a teamwork aspect. You're someone that can impact others in a positive way, and you're figuring that out as you pursue your passion. Those are all of our lanes that we're meant to find our purpose and passion. And for people listening, you have your lane. And the goal of your spiritual walk, whether you go to a religion, Christianity, Buddhism, culture, whatever term you want to put on it, there's a spirit in you that's calling out to you to be able to grow in some form, whether it is meditation, whether you go for a walk in the woods, whether you do your breath work, whether you sit there and you just have time and you're like, I don't want to do anything today, and you sit and you think. You don't ruminate on the negativity. You sit and allow your thoughts to rise to a higher level. That is what the power within us is, but that's spirituality. You don't have to put a label religion. You have to put a label Catholicism, a label Christianity, a label Buddhism. Take the labels away. What do you have? You have yourself and God. If you want to get closer, you do what you got to do to get closer in your own choice, in your own form, whether it is a building or not. And when you do that, you realize, like, I get it. It doesn't have to be forced upon you. That's your choice to walk in that power or put that power aside and go, I'm good on my own. And a lot of people say, hey, I'm good on my own, and I keep walking. It's always there. That's the beauty of it. I think there's it's not a scripture, it's a story, Footprints in the Sand. And I think if there are parents watching, I guarantee every single parent just understood that.
I have that hung up
you,
in my bedroom.
You got that. And the point of that story is to say, like, the footprints in the sand, and when there's two sets of footprints together, and then there's one, and when there's one, it means God was carrying us in our lowest moments, because then the two come back. And so there's a lot of people that turn away from religion or Christianity or Jesus or God or Buddha or whatever people want to put a terminology. You turn away from your spirit, you turn away from your creator, but his footsteps are never gone. He's always there, whether you look at him or not. He's always there. And a lot of us get so our ego fills us, egoic, and we sit there and we think that we are it. I'm the creator of my reality, which is true as ever, because as we said earlier, your thoughts, your belief systems create your reality. However, there's so much power behind you. And if you sit there and realize that if you want to co-create with the creator of the universe, doors, abundance, everything opens for you, love opens for you, and you realize you received the healing that you always needed, in whatever form that looks like for most people. And most people are just searching for some aspect of love. And that's the point of the scriptures. That's the point of God. So with everything that we just said, whether it's you talking about your points and your experiences, you and your experiences, we're supposed to go through those because they're our journey. That's the healing journey. If we want to come back to that topic, that's the spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. But we have to realize that there's power written down. There's power in our minds that we can tap into. And when you start to, oh my goodness, can you never close your eyes again? It's like, this is awesome. Why did I always turn away from this? Whether that's a Christianity, Catholic aspect, whether that's meditation or whatever other term I said throughout that entire rant, but still, there's power there, and it's on us to choose, do I want it, or am I good on my own? And most people say, I'm good on my own. But for those that want it, it opens up a whole new door in your life. But that's the walk. So you don't need to get angry at other people for choosing that. And I think a lot of past generations, they lived in a fearful standpoint because it was pushed on them, so they had to push it on others. And then it was never forced on me. I stopped going to church when I was like 10, and my life shattered into pieces. And the only thing that helped me was a friend that came to me in the gym and said, hey, I'm going to this place on the weekend if you want to come. And I sat there and I said, no. I said, nah, man, I did the church thing. I'm not going to that. And my life sucked for the next 3 days, and I was so shattered and broken because I couldn't get out of this. And I call him. I hadn't talked to him forever. As I never talked to him other than that one time in the gym. I said, hey, dude, I'll go. And he goes, all right, man, I'm going Saturday. And I went, and I sat there, and I listened to this sermon, and it was a phenomenal sermon. And I had like tears in my eyes because it was what I needed. And there was no denying at that point that God had his hand on me, and all things do work together for the good of those who love the Lord, as the scripture. All things work together for your good. And then when you realize and put those points together, it's like, if he had this, and that meant so much to me, that means he had every other moment. And because he wasn't with me in the other moments, because I wouldn't let him in, because he was there, but I blocked him off because I didn't know he was there. If I look and realize, like, wow, he was there too, and I just didn't look, he was there too. I didn't know I was so powerful because I didn't look at him. I didn't realize I had the love right there. And then now, moving forward in my life with that, I don't stress anymore. I don't get depressed anymore. I don't get angry very much anymore because still 2K can still get to me. But, like these certain areas of my life have come greatly improved because I realize who I am in all of that. And I know that can completely elevate and grow, but that's the walk. I might dive deep into it, so I might look like I'm ahead in certain areas. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Everyone's where they're supposed to be. And if they choose to open their eyes to more, it's there. If not, more power to you. It's your life. You make the decisions in your life. Well
said.
Yeah.
Definitely
I don't know if
said.
you want me to interject. I don't know what you have
Go.
for time. I saw you.
No, you're good.
looking at the watch
No,
right now.
you're good.
Is everyone still okay?
Yeah.
It's only midnight.
9:30. Yeah, 9:30. Everyone's still okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, just making sure. So, right, let's think about it like this for a moment. If we had sat here and Billy was our pastor, right? If that was the experience you would have gotten, it may have been much different, right? It would have been different for me. And I think the big picture that we're all trying to understand and find is that it may not be like your experience. We're not downplaying your experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's a true experience, exactly.
It's your experience. And it's clear to me, and let me know if I'm wrong, that there's a lot of religious trauma around that, right? It's clear with how impactful you speak. And so when I look at this, and again, I'm not trying to convert anyone to believe in God or faith or XYZ. Like, I'm talking about my experience. Billy's talking about his. You two are talking about yours. And that's it. That's just like everyone listening to this. You had your own experience, and we may have different perspectives. Something may click for one person and not for another, and that's it, right? And so when I look at your experience, I'd love to challenge you on some things too. Not saying your experience was right or wrong. It was simply yours. And so when I first heard, okay, well, the church is forcing me to write my name and sit in church. Well, okay, then let's look at it this way. If you're under 18, how much not human rights, but how much should you be able to dictate, right? Your parents only know what their parents did and what their parents did and what their parents did. So they were just doing, not saying that you hate them or anything like that. Like, they only know what they know. That's it, right? And so you being forced to go to church, like, that's what they knew. I think that you were being forced perhaps to a degree, but part of that may be a little story, right? Like, if you're saying that you should have the ability to choose whether you go to church at 8 years old, okay, maybe, all right, but now bring it into the everyday life today. All of these kids that are going, everyone has their own thoughts and beliefs on the transgender movements and things. At 8 years old, should you have been able, if you wanted to be a woman, should you have been able to go and do that?
Yeah, you're right.
Right? So it may, just a different perspective for us to look.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
When you went to that wedding, who forced you to go to that wedding?
You're right.
No one. No one, right? So you can talk about your experience, but it was your choice to go.
Right.
At the same time, no one was at the door saying this is, $20 to enter. They may walk around with the basket or anything. You say, I'm good. What are they going to do?
Right.
Just like when we talk about, okay, and this is coming from a perspective for people listening, our conversation, like, I'm not actively going to church, right? Yet when we look at, okay, they're passing around the basket and you need to go and donate, this is going right into the priest's pocket. Did you see it go right from the basket to the priest's pocket?
You're right.
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Right? So it's at the same time, just like we talk a lot, right? Story versus fact. The fact is that they're passing around something and you're highly encouraged to donate, right? That's it. That's the fact. Highly encouraged. The fact is not that it's going right into the priest's pocket. It may be, sure, but we don't know.
Right.
And so when I look at a relationship to a higher power, to me, treat it as, I've been treating it as a relationship, right? What do you do, when you first started seeing your girlfriend? Good morning, right? Good night, babe, all right? Those are a couple acts of service, right? All right, now I'm going to go out on a date, right? Oh, I got you a little gift, right? You're building that relationship. And so just like when I look at relationship to higher power, I can go and sit there and pray. Well, that's my little good morning text that I sent the girl, right? But now, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm going to go and read a little bit of scripture, right? Whether you agree or not. Maybe the Bible doesn't work for you, which is cool. Maybe it's the Bhagavad Gita, right? Maybe it's something different, right? But it's tending to that relationship. And so that's really all I have to say on the mat, and just see what lands, see what doesn't.
Great example.
Feel free to push back if you need to, but like, again, just what is like, just looking at different perspectives, and then just like Billy was saying, like, once you hear this, you can't unhear anything that anyone has said today. Right. So like, a lot of what's happening. So for 9 years, imagine this: you had the church forcing, to a degree, all of these different things that you were talking about, right? So that's your mind, right? And it's pouring in Coca-Cola, right? The church is pouring in Coca-Cola, and that's the thoughts and everything that is being programmed into you, right? Now you go and have this conversation. Well, we're pouring a little water into it, all right? If you listened to this conversation, right, then you went and read a little bit of scripture, then you went and you prayed a little bit, then you went and, you continue to pour water in. Now you've got 9 years of Coca-Cola in there. So it may take you 5 years to go and pour water in. But what's going to happen? Eventually, it will all be water. That's it. So if you did not enjoy your experience, which it feels clear, and that's okay, right? But if you can flood your consciousness, flood your psyche with something different, eventually there will be no more Coca-Cola. And maybe that is what works for you. So perhaps something like this, okay, it's starting to get the juices flowing a little bit. But then in a month you go and rewatch this podcast and things hit different, right? Then you go and listen to it again. Then you go and do another and another and another, and all of a sudden you just got water instead of all of the Coca-Cola that you have.
It's a great example.
Yeah, well said.
That's
Definitely well said. That's
Yeah.
yeah. No, definitely like it's definitely eye opening. Like everything that's said, different perspectives. It's definitely eye opening. And I know for me personally, I know for everybody else, it's everything that was said is like you had said. Like they're coming around the basket. They're not holding an well, I'll say it, but they're not holding a knife to your throat to put the money in the basket. Yeah, like I wanted to like caveat on that, like where like if you don't put money in the basket, they kind of just give you like they give you that shitty look, like are you serious? Like
Right.
you could throw some, so it's like then you have like now it's like now they're looking at me bad, and it's like, but realistically it's your choice. You put the money in the basket or not. And if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, these people can look at you with whatever facial expression they want or whatever. It's not going to change what you did.
Yep.
Maybe later on you want to throw a couple bucks in, you throw a couple bucks in. I know when I was a kid, I thought it was a mini game. I'd be like, Dad, give me $1. Throw $1 in this basket that's coming towards me. I thought it was a mini game. As I got older, I realized and I understood it more. And obviously, like you said, there's nothing that's pointing that the money's going right into the pastor's pocket. There's there's no way you would know. You know that it goes to the church. That's obvious.
Become a pastor, and then you will know.
Right. I can't because you can't get married, which I think is the silliest thing as a Catholic pastor, that you can't get married.
But again, so that's why you're not choosing to play that game.
Right. There's things around it that obviously I don't think are correct, but they think are correct. That's what they think, and this is what I think. Obviously, everybody has their own different mindset,
Right.
and we all live practically the same life, but we're all different in our own ways.
Yeah. And trust that you were supposed to have that experience there.
Right.
Trust that was supposed to be a part of your story, and I love it. I love everything Shawn said, and to kind of put a period on it with you and the basket example for people listening that relate to that. It's if you are making the decision to put money in the basket because you're afraid people are going to look at you as an outcast and people are going to look at you as weird, your ego, if we want to stick to your flesh and use those scriptures, your ego is what's telling you, oh crap, I gotta put that in or they're gonna judge me. Oh, so you're operating out of fear. You're operating of a lower level energy, a lower level emotion of yourself. If you're doing that because of you love the God, you love what you're learning there, you love whatever, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart to put the money in because you, regardless of what, like that's like every time I give to a homeless person, that guy could go directly to the liquor store. I don't care what he does with it. My thing is, it's his choice. I'm giving out of the goodness of my heart to someone that needs it. That's what I always looked at the basket as, and then I realized the tithe is in so many other areas of your life. I'm like, I get it. But if you're only doing it because you the judgment of others, that's your ego, and that what shows you elevate higher. When you do it, and if you don't do it, and you're like, it's all good, you're not operating out of your ego. You're operating out of like, maybe you don't have the funds that week to do it. God's like, hey, don't worry, you're here. I wanted your time, and I said that to a pastor one time, and he goes, oh, it's actually exactly true. Where God doesn't want you're told, and not even just Christianity and anything. You're told in ancient Egypt, ancient Egypt puts their at the time where they mummified everyone, the pharaohs, they put all their belongings into the pyramid because they thought they'd take them with them into the next life. We do not take anything into the next life. So when you go and give your money to God or whatever, you can't take it with you. So when we sit there and we're like, I can't hold on to it. God's like, hey, I just wanted your time. That was the biggest thing for me. Like Jesus does this throughout the Bible, the Garden of Gethsemane and everything, and throughout numerous scriptures. But he left all the disciples numerous times to go have time to himself with God, and he'd sit there and they whatever they called them, but it's like, well, where were you? And he goes, I was with my Father. And with God, and they're like, what? he'd always go to the wilderness. He'd always go away from them. He'd always go have time to himself, because you find the presence, capital P, in the present moment. That's why when you meditate, you're aligning yourself to the present moment. You find the presence. But when you realize that that is all God ever wanted, is your time with him, just like a parent would want with you, when you realize that's what it is, that's the tithe. Your focus, your energy, and your time given to him, it does not have to be a monetary value, because you can't take it with you. God doesn't need your money. God has abundant resources because he created the money. And so when you sit there and realize, like, oh, he's going to help who needs the help, he's going to give to who gives, and that's where it comes back to a self standpoint. With what you put out to the world comes back to you. What you give, you receive. In the sense of, if I give energy, if I give time, if I give money, it comes back to me in whatever form. And that's the aspect of it. Don't let your ego make the decisions for you. You're so much better than that, for people listening, for all of us right here. But, I just think it was a great topic. I think that was a powerful for anyone listening right there.
Depending, I think, a small caveat, depending where you're coming from, right? If you're only giving to receive, I think that you're coming out of that fear plate, right?
Yep.
I'm only giving this $10 so that I can pick up $100 later.
Exactly.
Like, versus,
living on the wrong mindset.
Versus that's not that energy and frequency of abundant. I'm giving this because, God has blessed me with enough. So here you go. I'm going to go tip the Starbucks worker $20. I know not that it's coming back to me. I have plenty. I have enough. Right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's a great way to put it, because it's like you said, if you give a homeless guy a couple bucks and you don't care what he goes and does with it. It's what you want it to do, and if it helps him in any type of way, it helps him. 100%. And then going on what you just said, if you go in expecting a higher outcome, you're going in for the wrong reason.
Exactly. It's greed.
Yeah, exactly. You need to go in knowing that the best part of doing something is to make you, in a sense, make you feel a lot happier and a lot more fulfilling with yourself. Not expecting, like you said, you throw $10 in the basket and you find $100 walking down the street. The chances of that happening, slim to none. It could happen, but it would only happen if it was meant for you. It's not going to happen because you dropped $10 in a basket. No, it's going to happen because this is what it was supposed to happen, whether you put the $10 in the basket or not. It was just ironic that it happened correlation to what you did, in a sense.
Your intentions behind anything in life, not just a tithe, your intentions direct everything for you. That's why if people listening right now do meditate or whatever, your intention for that meditation determines what you receive out of it. So when we sit there and we talk about the tithe and we're like, or giving to a homeless person, what's your intention behind that? If your intention is, if I give this, I'm going to get tenfold back, it's greed. So when you put greed out there, greed comes back to you. And that's a law of the universe. Whether people don't like the law of attraction terminology or what, it's a law of the universe. It's a law of resonance. You're resonating at a greed energy level, so greed is attracted to you. And so if you give the goodness of your heart, you're giving out of a loving matter, it comes back to you. Love comes back to you. But your intention determines what will come back in your life in any standpoint, whether that's a tithe, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a family matter, whether that's a career, whatever, it determines the energy you put out, and your intention directs that energy. And so it goes into everything in our life, whether a tithe or not.
I do not disagree. Well, I also think before we get too far off topic, and he's doing his own thing, I think before we get too far off topic and find the little nits and gnats of this exact topic, I think this is a good spot to end. We're a little over, I started it a little bit, so we're a little over 2 hours in, and I genuinely think that a lot of people, and not just myself, because I learned a lot from just sitting here today, a lot of people who listen to this will be able to pick off of anything we all just said in this past 2 hours and be able to resonate that in their life. And it could be a little bits and piece from the four of us that change whoever's this person is perspective on life for the better. And I think that this is a great spot to end it out. And for those who don't know where to find you guys, where can they find you?
Go through the training again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate being here. I love these talks with all of you guys. You know, I think being able, whether we talk about deep stuff like this or talk about anything, when four minds like this get together, it creates an energy. It creates a learning. Shawn kept using the word wisdom. It creates something where we can learn from it, and anyone that watches can learn from it. So I hope people listening and watch right now receive something from this in whatever part of this 2-hour podcast happened. But guys, to find me, if you're interested in my coaching or my speaking engagements, whatever it is, head to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me if you're interested in a free strategy session. I'll be right there for you because I want to be right there for you. And then if you're interested in finding the YouTube channel Once a Week with Billy G, we got, I believe, the dog wants to join. I believe right now at the time of this recording, we have 22,000 subscribers. So that's, we're trying to help as many people as we can. So I ask that you become a part of that, and it's a blast. And then you go to Instagram at Billy G. Analudis. You can find me on there. Type in Billy G Life Coaching. You can see all the posts we're doing every single day. But I appreciate you guys listening, and I hope you look for more. But
yeah, thank you for creating this space for us, for sure. I appreciate all of you guys just being open with where we're all at, right? And so in terms of our closing arguments here, for people that are listening and tuning in, you'll never be able to unhear this, right? And so if this is a seed that was planted, right, everyone's soil is different right now. But then someone goes and listens to this again, or their soil, all of a sudden, it's a little more ready to make it so that this seed can sprout, right? You'll never be able to unhear this. So whether your soil is ready or whether it's not, that seed is planted. So, yeah, thank you for having me, for all of you guys being here. You can find me everywhere at Growth by Shawn. Shawn is SHAWN.
I appreciate it as well. Thanks for having me and setting this up. You can find me, social media is The Breathing Goddess. Podcast is Mando's Mindset.
Fabulous. And yeah,
Breathwork Magic.
there we go. That's the new one. And obviously, I thank you guys for allowing me to set this all up and allowing me to host and being able to bring this together, because when you have just it's not even just the fact that we're all here together, but when you have, and I've been holding on this for a while, and hearing this the first time, and I'll give it out to someone who I listen to a lot. His name's Charlie Kirk. And he said this one thing. What he does is, for a little brief story, he goes to college campuses and he talks to the students on the college campus about whatever. And obviously recently it has been about the politics and stuff like that. But the one thing he said that resonated with me and made me understand, he goes, the day we stop communicating with each other is the day this world goes crazy. And the fact that we were able to sit here and communicate like how others should in the world is very eye-opening, not just to me, but I hope it's eye-opening to everybody else. And I'm glad that like we could have had this conversation today as a group, and I'm glad the conversation we did had, because it's super eye-opening for me, and I know for a fact it will be super eye-opening for everybody else. So with that, I'm glad to be sitting next to all three of you today, and I thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to come on the show.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Obviously, guys, if you guys enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Obviously, go follow these beautiful people on all of their social media. If you enjoyed today's podcast, like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next podcast. Take it easy. Peace out.
know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, God in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Boo signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things, don't even have a deal. Yeah, I battle through these bars, yeah, I always bunk a hill. I know that any city I go in, that I be flyer than Logan, and I be flying high. I want this shit up in here all the way to Shanghai, and my name's not Joe, but